Do you know your tendinitis from your spondylitis? Below par with PMR? Know nought about gout? Rheumatology.physio is teeming with content to engage with. Downloads, books, courses, and more to address any gaps in your knowledge. Head to rheumatology.physio, your one-stop shop for rheumatology information.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rheumatology Physio podcast. I haven't done a podcast in a little while, so I'm excited to be behind the microphone again. And I'm joined by Zoe Clark, who I think might be my first return guest, which I'm really pleased about. We talked about osteopathy, if memory serves, about 3 years ago, probably. So Zoe, you're here to talk to me about a new patient self-management project. Do you want to just start us off telling us what it is and how it came about?
Absolutely. So NASS, the National Axial Spondyloarthritis Society, has spent around a year co-producing YourSpAce, which is essentially a new online hub for people with axial SpA to learn more about their condition, to get tools and confidence in self-managing their condition. And it's something that we're really hoping will be helpful for healthcare professionals to easily signpost their patients to give that really detailed supported self-management advice.
Brilliant. And is it mostly based web browser or is it an app?
Yep, so it's all on our web pages. It's completely free to access. There's a series of short videos, and then alongside those, we've got downloadable resources, so people can dive into the short video content and then follow up building their own kind of supported self-management toolkit with those downloadable resources as well.
Brilliant. Awesome. And I think it's relevant that we talk about you a little bit and how you might have gotten involved in this project. I mentioned before we talked about osteopathy on the podcast previously. So how did you end up, you've moved, in my understanding, you moved a little bit away from osteopathy into this role at NASS. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how you've evolved into creating YourSpAce?
Absolutely. So I've been an osteopath for around 10 years, so an allied health professional in England. And then I started volunteering for NASS in sort of raising awareness among osteopaths about axial SpA and other inflammatory conditions, because it's an area of expertise and special interest. I've got a slightly vested interest because I've had AS for about 10 years myself. So around sort of COVID time, I started working with NASS on the helpline. And then from there, it's progressed to running the supported self-management program. So I'm now the senior self-management program officer at the charity.
Wow, fantastic. That's amazing. A sort of evolution from the almost the ground up by the sounds of it, starting off in the helpline and then going. So if we were to describe a typical user of YourSpAce, does that person exist, I suppose? And so, you know, who would we, if we've got patients in our clinic, who would we be guiding towards that kind of resource?
So I would describe them as someone who's at the start of their axial SpA journey. So whether that's someone who has just recently been diagnosed, or someone who's been diagnosed for a longer period of time, but they're kind of struggling with their symptoms, or they've not previously engaged with self-management or with other ways to support their condition outside of medication and exercise. They're the people who I think YourSpAce is really helpful for. As I said, with those kind of short videos, they're really accessible. People can kind of dip in, dip out, depending on what's going to suit them on the day. And it's quite accessible and less overwhelming than a lot of the information that's out there at the moment.
Brilliant. So take me into a little bit of a detail, and there's 3 sections, isn't there, as far as I worked out. I know there's a pain section, so I'm interested in that one. Let's go into a little bit more detail. So what's the kind of things that's involved in that short video that we can direct people to?
Yes, we've got an introductory video explaining why people with axial SpA experience pain and the different factors that can go into that. And then we break it down into medication that can be useful for managing their pain, as well as then non-medication pain relief. So all those kind of self-management tools that perhaps the rheumatology teams don't have that time to go into in much sort of greater detail. We can break those down into more detail. And then we've also got a video from someone living with axial SpA describing how she experiences pain, what she does to help it. And she goes into kind of not only the medication, but the exercise she does, how she sort of works her lifestyle around it, and even things like meditation and relaxation techniques as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Sounds really useful. It sounds like it make my job a lot easier. You obviously mentioned you've got the video from the lady who does AS as well. How much patient involvement? Obviously, you've been there as well, but how much sort of outside patient involvement have you sought to try and build this resource as well?
It was really important to us to really involve patients right from the outset. So in July last year, we ran a consultation process with patients and with rheumatology healthcare professionals. So right from the consultation process, we got their views to look at what sort of content we should be creating. I mean, originally we were considering, do we create an app? Do we do like e-learning modules? And it was actually through the consultation process that mainly with the patients, they said, actually what we want is kind of short content, stuff we can dip into, really easy to access, that's not going to overwhelm us. So they shaped the whole program. And then from there, we created a steering group, and over a third of the members of the steering group were people living with the condition. So they helped us with the actual video content and with those downloadable resources. So right from beginning to end, and and launching it as well. They've been helping us with spreading the word as well.
Yeah, it's obviously always been a really big strength of NASS is the membership and them sort of championing what's been going on, but really great to have them involved as well. Seems like a real obvious, or to me anyway, an obvious evolution of NASS's resources to start creating something that's a bit more tech involved. So I remember back when I first started in rheumatology in 2000, when I was younger, I don't even remember, 2011 or 12 or something, NASS was very much, here are some printable pieces of paper that you can use, and then it evolved into PDFs and downloadable things, and there has been some video content, and then this sort of more targeted sort of project seems like a natural evolution. Is there any plans afoot to take it a step further, more content, more diverse content, that kind of thing?
Yep. So we this project was part funded by Novartis, and just recently we secured further funding from them to expand it. So again, we're going to run a consultation process to look at how we expand it, and we're also going to do a lot of feedback gathering from people who have used the YourSpAce so far, and from healthcare professionals who have accessed it and signpost to it. So we're going to understand kind of, do people want us to just expand the topics? Do they want us to change the approach in any way? And again, really co-produce it right from the ground up. But we're excited to secure that funding so we can evolve it. But we do also, as part of it, we're trying to really build a community for people with axial SpA. So we have online meetups that we're holding each month. And again, with each of those, after each session, people get a feedback survey. So then we can understand what's working, what's not working, and we can just keep evolving it depending on what people need.
Yeah, sounds really organic in the way that it's developing. I really like it. Do you think you'll get an app? I think it lends itself to an app, but I've tried to create my own app in the past and got stuck at the funding stage and it being very expensive and time consuming. But do you think that will happen?
We have an app called Back to Action, which we've been looking at whether we update it, because at the moment it's very exercise focused, which is still great to signpost people to, but it could do with updating and kind of reinvigorating a bit. As you said, it really does come down to the funding, unfortunately, but that's something that we're still considering. From the original consultation, when we asked people, would it be an app or something like that, they said that perhaps that might be harder to find. So I think it might be something that it would be great if we could host our content on apps and get the word out that way. But I think alongside the other route as well would be really good, so people can still find it really easily.
Yeah, makes sense, mate. And you don't want to go spending a load of money on something people can't find. So totally understand that. So obviously most of the listeners to my podcast are physiotherapists and other flavors of healthcare professional osteopaths, for example. What would your pitch to them be, I suppose? So, we want them to, the reason I've got you on is I want them to signpost more people that they see to YourSpAce. I keep wanting to say MySpace. It's too close. That shows my age, doesn't it? Signpost to YourSpAce. So what would be your pitch to them to get them to do more of that?
I would say, firstly, it's really easy to signpost people to YourSpAce. I nearly said MySpace as well. We have on our website an area where you can order free promotional packs. So we can send over A4 posters you can put up in clinic, but also postcards that have a few bullet points about the benefits of YourSpAce for your patients, and then a QR code that they can scan so they can access it straight away. I would say But anyone that you see where you think they want that extra support in understanding their condition, in building their skills and confidence in self-managing symptoms, and anyone who's just kind of struggling or feeling isolated, they're the kind of people that I think would find YourSpAce really beneficial. And I think it will help, because we know that healthcare professionals don't have the time to give that supported self-management, sort of detailed advice. We'd love to be able to be there to give them that advice and support, and then giving them the knowledge of when they need to then go back to healthcare professionals when it is that they need their advice and their expertise and everything.
Perfect. Would you suggest the healthcare professionals go and have a look at YourSpAce first and get a feel for what it's like?
Definitely.
Easy answer.
Yeah. And also get in touch if there's anything you think that could be improved or added, anything like that, or you want to get involved in the consultation process. It would be great to have more people getting involved. We're always keen to get lots of different people's sort of input, whether you're an OT, a physio, rheumatologist, any member of the team would be really great.
Yeah, perfect. And I know obviously on the NASS, one of the things I love about the NASS website in general is the wealth of information that's on there. And so obviously with the consultation with the patients, you've sort of distilled that down into the things they were wanting the most, haven't they? But is there any plans for the rest of the NASS website that you know of to develop that? I mean, like I say, there's unbelievable amount of information on there. If you've got a question, it's answered on the NASS website essentially. But is there anything, because that it's almost becoming, I don't know, too much of a library, maybe I'm extrapolating, but any plans there to distill that down a bit?
Yeah, and we have heard that from people on the helpline where they've said, we've gone to the website and then we've got a bit overwhelmed, so we thought we'll give you a call instead. And it definitely, I think it covers everything, but there is difficulty in that, definitely. So it is something we're looking at. And recently we redid our My AS My Life web pages where we host all of our Facebook Live recordings, because we had sort of run so many since April 2020. I think we just did our 109th. We've had nearly 300,000 views now. So we just needed to condense that all down. So we've really broken it down into different areas of pain, life hacks, things like that. So it's much easier. And we're looking across the website at how we can kind of distill things and make it easier. But there's always a search function. And as you said, if you're looking for something, search for it and almost guaranteed it will pop up. But if not, give us a call on the helpline.
Absolutely. Brilliant. I mean, it sounds like a really good resource. I mean, I've looked at the page, and I've not delved completely into the content as we talked prior to starting off. I wanted to hear your sort of pitch to it before I tried to make up any decisions on it. It's something I'm going to go and do over the next couple of days is spend some detailed time on there. And it looks super simple to use, which is always useful these days, and intuitive. What is the general feedback so far from patients? Have you had any super positive or super constructive criticism as yet?
Yeah, we've had some really positive feedback from the videos themselves, especially the lived experience videos. So both Ben and Wendy sharing their experiences. It's been really lovely to see comments from people saying, oh my God, finally I've heard from someone who is describing exactly what I've been going through. And lots of people saying they're feeling less alone, even just from hearing those stories. And that's then been backed up with the meetups that we run so far. I mean, they've all been fully booked so far. We've had to run 2 a month rather than 1 a month. And again, from there, the feedback has been just saying that it's so nice to feel less alone, meet other people with the condition, and realize that it's something people with axial SpA go through. It's not just individual. We are always looking for constructive criticism as well, though. So I'm hoping in the main sort of feedback survey we'll be launching in a couple of months. Great. I'm hoping we'll be able to really dig down into that and understand sort of who's using it, who's not using it, and how we can sort of reach people that we're not reaching yet. So hoping to really dig down into that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I must slightly different, but whenever we see sort of usage of our platforms, the podcasts and things, it always slightly surprises me. You skew off to age differences or gender differences or location differences, and that you're not quite expecting. And sometimes that tells its own story, doesn't it? So that'd be really fascinating if you get that data back. My final question, I suppose, is logistics. Where can we signpost people to specifically, with firstly to YourSpAce, and then also you personally, because I know you put out again mostly on your Twitter feed that I see, but lots of great information that signposts to the signposts essentially.
Yeah, so good starting point is just the NASS website, which is nass.co.uk, and YourSpAce sits on our new to Axial SpA webpage. So you click on there and then you can find that host YourSpAce. As I said, it is good for people, no matter when they were diagnosed. It's for people kind of newly engaging with their condition, really. But we do, as I said, we've got those promotional packs that you can order for free as well. So then it's really easy to signpost people to. You don't have to remember the URL or anything, just hand them a postcard. And yeah, you can also find us on Twitter at NASS Exercise, and then I'm on Twitter as well, Zoe Clark Osteo. So yeah, it'd be great to hear from people and see what you'll all think of YourSpAce as well.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, yeah, super excited to get used to it. I've got a little my own little bank of patients that can go there, so I'll be signposting them all. Whether a little pack of cards is useful for me, probably not so much, because I see most of my patients remotely, but I'll definitely be pushing them all towards there. So it's super useful. Thank you very much, Zoe, for spending this best part of 25 minutes or so with me talking about this progress. I mean, again, we've certainly spoken before about NASS, and I've had NASS on my podcast a couple of times. Really impressed with what you guys get up to. A lot of power for a relatively small organization. It's unbelievable work, and real patient advocacy is through the roof. So really impressed with that. Always happy for NASS to come on, and I'll try and champion everything that you guys do.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. We'll signpost everyone to the website, and if people check in the show notes for the website for the podcast as well, then the links that we've just mentioned and Zoe and the Twitter feed and stuff will be in there for you to find nice and easily. So that'll be good. But yeah, finally, thank you very much, Zoe, for spending the evening with me, and good luck with the project. And I hope to see it develop and become bigger and even more impressive.
Thank you, and thanks so much for having me and helping me spread the word as well.
Yeah, anytime.
There are two things that all MSK therapists have in common the world over. They love free trials and exercise prescription. So if you're a chiro, physio, osteo, or some sort of os-chiesio hybrid, then head to rehabmypatient.com/physiomatters now and get 3 months on us of the best exercise prescription software available.